Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Learning to Glow. I'm your host, Jess, and we just had Mother's Day, and I want to say thank you to all the moms who listen to this show. I was thinking of all the moms yesterday when I was celebrating Mother's Day with my family, and I am so appreciative for the moms that listen to Learning to Glow and that are clients of mine with Simply Jess Skincare. I just hope that you all, as mothers, took some time for yourself and a little bit of self-care and did whatever it is that you wanted to do. I sure did. It was an amazing Mother's Day. I hung out with my family. I got to spend some good time with my mom. It was fantastic. I actually started doing a yoga class every Sunday, and it was in the park. It's at the park right near my house, and a friend of mine, her name's Jill, she teaches park yoga. And it's just such a nice addition to my week. It's a great way to start your Sunday and week. And my son, who is 15, honored me with his presence, and he came with me to the yoga class, and we had so much fun. So thank you to Jill, and it was so fun to see the other moms who showed up with their kids as well. And ever since I got back from my yoga retreat, I just have found a new love. I mean, even before that, I started taking the park yoga, and I've just fallen in love with yoga again. So what a treat. If you haven't done yoga and you're looking for a way to quiet your mind and get back into your body, and it's so much more than just what I used to think it was, like a workout. It is hard. There are different types of yoga, but the strength part of yoga is incredible. But the mind and like the body connection is what really draws me to it. So anyways, happy belated Mother's Day. Today we have an amazing expert, hormone expert. Her name is Robin Nielsen, and she's going to be talking about how hormones can have a huge impact on perimenopause, weight gain, and so much more. She shares her own healing journey, which is extensive. She went through years of suffering with so many different things like acne, fatigue, brain fog, digestive issues, mood struggles, and really interesting, some of the things that you might not connect, like dry, cracked heels and elbows and varicose veins, painful varicose veins, gum and enamel issues. She healed all of her symptoms, which I was very surprised. Some of these things that we talk about all the time, yes, it's skin is one of the ones that people struggle with, and then they kind of have gut issues, or they heal their gut and they have such great results, and you can see it on the skin. But some of these other issues that Robin was suffering from, I was like, oh wow, you can heal that too. So I love this conversation. I love how she explains hormone balance, and we talk about how it's not always estrogen and progesterone that we need to worry about, how stress, blood sugar, toxins, she talked a lot about that, and daily lifestyle habits can all affect how our bodies feel and function. So this is a great reminder of listening to our body's symptoms and paying attention to them. So Robin is incredible. Please go check her out. I'll have a link in the show notes. She's so knowledgeable and she's so wonderful. I really, really love talking with her, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Learning to Glow. Today we have Robin Nielsen with us. Welcome to our show.
So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I would love it if you could talk to us a little bit about what you do and your background, but so excited to be talking about hormones today because I can guarantee you most of our listeners are interested in this topic. So if you could introduce yourself first, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming you're going to read my bio, and so you have that. But my mess is my message. So I never dreamed that I would be talking about these things or teaching these things, but you know how we women are. If we find something that really works, we want to share it. And I felt that, when we look at our bodies and our health from a hormone perspective, and looking at the right hormones, things really shift in a powerful way pretty quickly. So that's been my work over the last 21 years, is to help women really understand what's going on, but in a super simple way, and in a way that we can address it ourselves. So I think it's so important for us to say yes to ourselves, choose you, and then do the things that you need to do to thrive, right? So become the CEO of your own health, because our bodies are innately wise and they can heal with the right resources. Because what's been happening, if you're, noticing symptoms of, dis-ease, right? Any symptoms, your body is breaking down more than it's building up, which is a super simple concept, right? Your body's just breaking down too fast. So I had all sorts of, symptoms, like many of us, but I was old when I was young. So, in my early 20s, I had receding gums and I had receding enamel on my teeth, and my dentist handed me a tube of Sensodyne toothpaste and said, "This will take care of it," right? Which really meant that you can eat hot and cold foods without shooting pain. And I could gain 5 pounds in a day for no good reason. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, or I felt like
Not me at all. No.
yeah, right. And I had acne. So I didn't just have teenage acne. I had acne for 30 years, for 3 decades, on my face, my chest, and my back. And we know I don't know how embarrassing that is, and how shameful, and you feel like an idiot because you can't figure it out. I'm not one to use drugs to fix things. So, I lived with it, trying to figure it out for a lot of years. And, then as I moved into my late 20s, I had arthritic symptoms in my hands. And then, and I still could gain 5 pounds in a day for no good reason. And I still had the acne, and I still had the gum issues. And I had rough elbows. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but I had really rough elbows, and I thought it was a lotion problem. So I must have tried 50 different lotions to make my elbows soft. And we could probably say the same thing about our feet, right? And then as I moved into my 30s, I still had all those same issues, but now, horrible digestive problems and brain fog, and I'm starting to get really tired because I'd been pushing through all of this. We kind of ignore things that are going on in our bodies, except for the things that are outward facing, like weight gain and acne. Those were my big things. But I also then had varicose veins behind my knees, and they're really, really painful and very unsightly. And, I'm in my 30s now. And never in a million years did I imagine I could do anything about that. So I, ignored them and pushed through. And then as I got to my kind of my mid 30s, 35, 36, I just had a meltdown. And, I was driving home from work, and I just started sobbing. And I felt like I wasn't doing a good job at anything. I wasn't being a good mom. I wasn't being a good wife. I wasn't, doing a great job at work. Of course I was, but I was feeling like a failure, and it really had everything to do with my hormones being out of balance. And I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. I had that roll over my hands, and I was so exhausted. I had completely kind of burned myself out. And so I vowed right then and there to figure my stuff out. This was all for me. And we didn't have Dr. Google back then. So I didn't even have that to help me a little bit, or, I couldn't search for someone to help me. So I had to just yeah, kind of wait and see. And, when we choose, right, whatever it is, when we choose, the universe starts providing the next step. And so I didn't know that at the time, but I was highly motivated to heal and figure my stuff out. So I said yes to everything that came my way. So within a few months, I was in school, back in school. And then I trained under an endocrinologist because she was a functional endocrinologist way before that was even a thing. And I just loved her work, and she solved all the problems that I wanted to solve for myself. And so, days and weeks and months, and, a few years later, I healed everything. Everything, right? I never had to diet again. I was able to eat more than I ever had. As women, I learned to undereat and overexercise. That's how I addressed weight gain. And that's breaking your body down, by the way. When you undereat, when you don't give your body enough resources and you overexercise, you're breaking down muscle, right? You're breaking down your brain chemistry. Your body's having to pull from your bones to function, even. So I didn't know that, right? So now I'm, eating better and more than I ever had. My moods were stable. I was happy. My skin completely cleared up. That had never happened to me before in my life. The gums grew back and became healthy. The enamel on my teeth grew back. I didn't have to use,
Wow.
weird toothpaste. Varicose veins completely went away. Like, this is amazing, right?
Yes.
I had soft elbows for the first time in my life. Absolutely everything healed, and I could be present. I think that was maybe the biggest gift that I didn't know that I didn't have, was just being able to be present. Yeah, with whoever I was with or whatever moment I was in, because, my brain was really struggling with all of the imbalances, I think. So, yeah.
That is incredible. First, I'm like, how? So we'll get to that because I like the list of symptoms that you had. I was like, oh, the teeth, the dry elbows and feet, like things that nobody would think that could be, hormones, or, it's like we just think that's just how we were born, or,
Right.
this is just a genetic issue that we have.
Right.
So let's start with, because there's so many things, it's hard to wrap my head around what to ask you because there's so many exciting things that you said. And I really love how you said that the universe will provide the next step, because this was before, like, we can just hop on our phones now. We can go to Chat GPT. Like, it's so much easier to get information. And back then it wasn't. So where did you start? And tell us where you started, and you even were able to clear your skin. As an esthetician, somebody who treats people, I've treated a lot of skin in the past. I've known for a long time that what we put inside of our bodies affects our skin, and it's really hard for that message to get across to a lot of people, I think, because they think it's like, they're just tell me what to put on my skin. Just tell me what to do. What treatment should I get? And now that I know what I know, I can't say I can say some things are going to help. They really absolutely will. But why is it happening? So I want to talk about the why. But first, tell us what you started with when you began this journey and you had your meltdown in the car. And you had so many things going on at the same time, which would be so devastating for anyone. And then you didn't mention fatigue, but I'm sure that was very
Oh, yeah, I
draining
was
for you.
exhausted. Oh, yeah, I was
Yeah.
exhausted. Well, that's how the meltdown happened. And I went back to school, really, just to it's interesting because it really started with, I'm an entrepreneur, really, at heart. And so I went to have a business consult with a woman who, helped people like me with their next thing, and she's the one who said, I think you would really love this, because I had all these ideas, but I kind of needed that foundation because I was already started down the healthier path because of the endocrinologist, and I was kind of following some of the things that she was doing, so I was already starting to heal when I went back to school. And there was something that came up yes. So I wasn't focused on anything other really than my energy, my skin, and my weight. Right?
Okay.
Like that's all I wanted to fix because I never in a million years thought I could fix my teeth or my gums or the varicose veins or the arthritic symptoms of my hands. Like I never thought I could fix any of that. So it wasn't even on my radar. Like these are things in hindsight that I'm like, wow, like for the first time in my life when I was like 39 years old, I could bite into an ice cream without, having a shock of pain.
Hmm.
That was the first time ever, right? And that's pretty far, far down the road in your life. Anyway, so I think awareness is key, starting to think about what are those things that aren't just right in my body? What are those things that I just accept or that I just tolerate? So I invite you to think about that right now because those things you can heal. You can heal everything. Gosh, the list of things that our clients have healed are endless, right? And even relationships. Your relationship with your significant other or your kids heals when you heal yourself because you're able to be in the present moment with them, right? You're not some crazy lunatic just trying to get through the day or so exhausted that you can't get off the couch and participate in life, right? Because
Yeah.
that's a real thing for women too, because we give a lot and for most of us we don't know when to stop, and it really really takes us out. So I was the yes
Yeah.
girl. I'm sure you can relate.
Yes, for sure. I know a lot of people can. And I've been on the couch not being able to get up and it's torture. And it's like
Horrible.
one of those things where it is hard to feel like you're being a good mom, even though we are, because we're not doing the things that we want to do. I don't have the energy to get up and make cookies with them or whatever. So if you're in that space, it's just a terrible feeling, and it feels painful to me. I remember just feeling like this is painful to be in this situation. And by the way, I didn't say this earlier, but you glow. Like your skin glows, your hair is beautiful, your teeth are beautiful. So you can tell like you radiate all of this, and to come from where you were and having all these skin issues, it's crazy. So, a lot of people listening, and this is one of the things that you wanted to focus on because you thought you could, is weight gain. And especially as you get to a certain age too, right? Like even if you didn't struggle with it as young as you were having issues really young, but maybe nobody ever, a woman never had that issue, and then they hit a certain age and they're like, okay, I'm gaining weight and I'm not doing anything different. What can you talk to us about that? Because I know that's a big complaint with a lot of women.
Mm-hmm. So symptoms manifest differently for each one of us based on our genetics and our lifestyle. And there's a term called epigenetics. Have you talked about that a little bit?
A
And
little bit on the show, yeah.
yeah, and those are epigenetics are uh, is really about all those external things that influence you, right? The way that you're living your life, what you're exposed to, all those things really influence your genetic expression. So, those are the things, by the way, that really cause wellness or illness more than anything else. So, it's really what you learned from those who raised you, plus your awareness really of toxins, in your life. So all those, where you're living and what you expose yourself to, and the makeup that you put on your skin, and the face cream. One of our clients, we couldn't figure out why her estrogen was through the roof. Like it just was this anomaly. Like couldn't figure it out. So we sent her face cream to the lab, and it was full of xenoestrogens, right? Those toxic synthetic estrogens, and they are obesogens, ladies. They make us fat. They totally mess with your endocrine system, and we get fat because of it. And in our fat, all the toxins are stored. So, then when you start to release the fat, you feel really sick. Like it's a thing. So, let's get back to your question, which is your weight was fine. And then you came into your late 30s, potentially early 40s, and things started to shift. A couple things about that. So, we are going to store a little bit more fat because as your ovaries stop producing, you need more estrogen. So fat is very estrogenic, right? Not the brown fat, but the other fat, and it helps to support more estrogen in the body. So that's a thing, right? And we actually need a little bit more cholesterol as we age as well, for the very same reason, because cholesterol is the mama of all of our steroid hormones. So she makes, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, cortisol, pregnenolone, aldosterone, which regulates your electrolytes. And, oftentimes we're really busy shutting cholesterol down, because our doctors freak us out about cholesterol when we really need her. So be careful with that, because if your cholesterol gets too low, you're just going to be hormone deficient and depressed, right? Because our hormones really work with our brain chemistry. So be really careful about that. So what I would say, as we age, and things really start to shift, it comes back to all the same things, no matter what your age. It's just that when you're younger, you can bounce back a lot faster. You just have the resources to bounce back. As we age, not so much. So something that like running 5 miles used to not be a thing. And now it's a thing. Now you feel really tired and sluggish and fat and exhausted. And that's all you could do today, perhaps. So you got to shift how you take care of yourself. And that's a big deal for some of us, because what used to work isn't working anymore. And so we go back to, am I breaking my body down, or am I building my body up? Because it's those underlying stressors, right? I don't like to use the word stress because, first of all, it makes us mad. Women hear the word stress, fat, and they're like, what? Like, what is that? And how do you even deal with that? So think of it differently. Think of it as, or think of them as like hormone deal breakers, things that are taking out your hormones. And, as women, we are very attached, because we've been trained to be by our doctors. We're very attached to progesterone and estrogen. Like those are when we're talking about hormones, those are the first two you think of. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And maybe testosterone comes in there, maybe DHEA, but for sure progesterone and estrogen. So I can't tell you how many times women have posted those numbers for me and said, you can see here that I'm low in progesterone, or that my estrogen is high. And I said, you'd be right. Right. But we don't really care. I know this is such a weird thing to say. We don't really care about those hormones right now, because if you're not feeling your best, there are two major hormones that you have to pay attention to, so that you can actually make your minor hormones. So if you don't have these two hormones in balance, you cannot make your progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, even your thyroid's not going to work right. So you've got to fix these two hormones. These are your major hormones. So from this day forward, I want you to think, I've got to make sure that my cortisol, right, which she gets such a bad rap, by the way. She's our stress hormone. Well, she's actually saving your life every day, over and over and over. But she's also our daytime hormone, and she sets your beautiful circadian rhythm for the day and works synergistically with melatonin, which is your nighttime hormone. But we're taking cortisol out because we live a stressful life, perhaps. right? But it could be that you just lost your car keys, or that you're sitting in traffic, or you're late for an appointment, or you don't like the outfit you're wearing, or whatever. And that just takes cortisol too high. And when cortisol is too high over time, you get all the symptoms of, hormone imbalance, weight gain, all the things, the varicose veins, the receding gums. And insulin is a major hormone because insulin has to come up to match cortisol to get sugar from your bloodstream into your cells to burn for fuel so you can run from the tiger, right? You need that energy in your cells so that you can get all mad over the traffic, or get your child off to school on time, or, whatever it is. So you want to start thinking, how can I get my cortisol balanced every day, right? And I draw this little curve because in the morning, your cortisol is at its lowest point, and within 2 to 3 hours, it's at its highest point. So you have really good energy to start the day, and then it starts to go down in the afternoon, evening, and then melatonin starts to rise as it gets dark outside. But there's so many things that take cortisol out, and therefore insulin. And we know as we age, we also become more insulin resistant because of this. And insulin resistance has all the same symptoms as perimenopause and postmenopausal symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
So if you fix cortisol and insulin, now everything else falls into place. Now you can actually make some progesterone, because progesterone will go to make cortisol. So there's something called the pregnenolone steal, which is pregnenolone makes cortisol, and it also makes progesterone, but it will be used to make cortisol over and over again if you're living a life that requires that. When progesterone is our sort of, relaxing, beauty hormone, it helps us sleep, but, it's very relaxing, helps us even grow hair in a certain aspect, beautiful hair. Yeah, it's also a diuretic. So if you're retaining a lot of water, you're probably low in progesterone, because estrogen retains water. Progesterone is a diuretic, releases water. So again, you have to get a handle on cortisol and therefore insulin in order to have, even make sex hormones, because you can't run from the tiger and make babies. It's not physiologically possible. And rightly so, right? If we're trying to save our lives, we're not going to be making babies. It's just not going to happen. So, all of the resources are pulled away from the sex hormones, and they go to make your big hormones. And so once you, get cortisol in balance and insulin in balance, and you start to get more insulin sensitive, magic happens, because then you start building up your body way more. And now you're happier, you got better brain chemistry, your metabolism. So your thyroid is working much better. You just feel better. All the symptoms I had completely went away, and I didn't really figure out the mechanics of this until, later. But that's how it works, and it's so it's pretty simple when you think about it. But it's pretty simple. So you ask the question, what do I need to do to balance cortisol?
Yeah. Well, you talk about the stressors and some of the things that we need to work on as we're dealing with our hormones and, feeling off. What are some actions we can take if we're in this boat? Okay, energy's off. I mean, some of the symptoms that you're talking about are new to me. I didn't know that was something that can be healed. I know the body is amazing, but you don't think about some of the things that you had, obviously skin, I've heard of that, it can be healed, and your weight, obviously. But what are some things that we can start doing if we're in this situation to help us get feeling better?
Great question. So I'm just going to list off some of the top hormone deal breakers. And those are
Okay.
that we need to fix and pay attention to.
Okay.
I'll get them fast so that I can get into how to address them. So the first one is poor diet. And if you are saying to yourself, I know how to eat, then just, take a deep breath and be open to really shifting things to eat for hormone balance. Because everything that you do going forward, you want to think, is this balancing my cortisol and insulin, or is this taking them out? Right? That's it. Super simple. So a poor diet, not the right macronutrients for you, not the right timing, whatever it is. And then the second thing is just not enough of the right nutrients for you.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamins and minerals run every reaction in your body. So if you don't have enough of any one of them, it throws your whole system off. And we're all, as women, we're all magnesium and zinc deficient right out of the gate. I can tell you, I've done so much testing. I've lived it. Anyway, so nutrients, huge. And, many of us take a lot of supplements, but we're not actually taking, I don't know, we don't have a method to our madness, and it gets overwhelming. So have a plan. Like, what do you actually need? So we kind of have to test, don't guess.
Mm-hmm.
And assessments are great too, by the way. So really thorough assessments are so helpful because how you feel is more important than test results. But test results give us that objective information that we can't see any other way. Chronic infections. If your doctor looks at your blood work, your doctor's going to say you're fine, because they're not looking for optimal levels. They're looking for disease. And when you have disease, you can be treated. But if you don't have disease, you can't be treated, but you still feel like crap. So think about, optimal reference ranges for things, because that's when we can feel pretty darn good. And let's see. Yeah, we'll just stop there with that. But it's really important, to kind of know your numbers. But chronic infections can really take you out. And many of us have chronic infections. So that's where your white blood cells are too low. Right? If our white blood cells are too high, that's an acute infection. So you've got something going on right now, but if they're too low, we just have this underlying thing that's continually stressing our bodies. Toxins of all kinds, including toxic relationships, toxins from the environment, just toxins in our food supply, all of it. Toxins are a big deal. Toxins in your body care products, toxins in your household cleaners, huge, right? So we should just have two household cleaners in our homes, and that is white vinegar. Is epic for killing germs and getting rid of mold and everything, and Bon Ami, which is a great scrub. Bon Ami. That's it. Those
I'm
are
writing that down.
non-toxic household cleaners. Everything else has to go because it's so toxic. They did a study, with Windex and rats, and within like 4 days, the rats grew tumors, just from a little Windex, right? And how many people use Windex on a daily basis, especially, housekeepers and, window washers. And oh my gosh, just use white vinegar for heaven's sakes. It works like magic. What are some of the other things? There are so many things. Insulin resistance is one, just not knowing that you have insulin resistance. And by the way, we blame ourselves for so many things. And what I want to say is it's not your fault on any of this. It wasn't my fault that I had all these issues. I just didn't know. But it is our responsibility to figure it out. So now that you're here, Jess has a fabulous podcast here. And she gives you incredible information. And so act on it, right? Take that one next step. Just that small, simple next step can have these huge changes, right? Can help you with huge changes. So toxins are, they're a biggie. And toxic relationships are a biggie. Protect yourself because they're super stressful. They take cortisol out. Right? So we don't want to take cortisol out. Coming back to insulin resistance, the reason that that's such a big deal is because it affects so many of us, and it'll really keep us stuck in hormone hell. Even BPA and plastic. So a lot of toxins cause insulin resistance. That's why I was thinking about, it's not your fault because we just don't know these things. So that's why you want to be so careful about toxins now. And I saw that there was a new TV show about that, and I thought, wow, that's pretty progressive. So start, even like watch that, because even like plastic clothes hangers and things like that can really have a huge impact in your home. So you don't want toxins or anything in the environment taking out your body, for sure. And there's a great book by Dr. Joseph Pizzorno about toxins and all the things that all the havoc that they're wreaking in our bodies. So that's a great book, and I'm not remembering the name of it off the top of my head, but just look up Dr. Joseph Pizzorno, Pizzorno. Yeah, it's, give you sort of an overview of, why insulin resistance is becoming such an epidemic. And, a to-do list, for instance, that's a hormone deal breaker. And it's really odd to think that, but it never gets shorter. It's something that we're always thinking about. And it's really so satisfying to cross something off your list. But then we add 2 more things. And so does it ever get shorter? No. I don't know. It almost becomes like an obsession. I was talking to this woman yesterday. I don't even know her. And she's telling me about her to-do list. And she's talking, a mile a minute. She's talking so fast. And I could just feel her cortisol vibrating in her body. And I'm like, you need to get rid of that to-do list. Oh, she wouldn't hear of it. We hold on to that like a badge of honor, but I'm telling you, it's totally taking you out. So anything, the way that you get rid of a to-do list, I haven't had a to-do list for years, just doesn't exist, is that you put it in your calendar, because the to-do list is not in your calendar. And so it's extra, right? It's the stuff that you have to do when you've already had a full day. What are you thinking? So all you have to do is, if it's important, it goes in your calendar. If you move it more than twice in your calendar, delegate it. That's it. Done, right? And now your nervous system can settle down, and you don't have to think about it because it's in your calendar, right? And the night before, you can just look at your calendar and say, okay, here's what's going on tomorrow. Great, done. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, those are some of the things that take us out. There are lots of them. You can think of what they are for you. What are those things that are taking you out? But I'll just give you a few more tips. So I gave you the tip about how to get rid of your to-do list, and that toxins could be causing insulin resistance, which causes a lot of the symptoms that we experience in perimenopause and postmenopause. And just want to say too that hot flashes, night sweats, they are not something to joke about with your girlfriends, because they're really serious. We joke about it because it's something that happens and we're miserable about it and we don't know how else to deal with it, but it's taking your brain out. There's a lot of new research now. It's a real stressor on your body, so you've got to fix it. And you fix it by, doing these things that I'm talking about today, because they're common, but they're not normal. I was at the farmer's market last weekend, and there were 2 ladies talking about their hot flashes. Oh my gosh, I have so many every day. Isn't it crazy? And they're laughing. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that is a sign that your body is out of balance. It's a sign that your body's out of balance. It doesn't have to happen. Women have them for decades. When you think, oh, they're going to go away at some point. They're going to go away at some point. Maybe yes, maybe no. Some women just keep having them. So address them, because it's a big deal. And it's a hormone imbalance, right? So let me just talk about the eating part, because I think that'll be so helpful for us as women. And, we want to focus on eating our healthy protein, fats, and carbohydrates at every meal. I know that because of the new food pyramid, everybody is thinking protein, protein, protein. But you can't have protein without a lot of vegetables, because protein's very acidic, and that will make you feel sick. Without the alkalinity, all the nutrients that are in the vegetables. So a protein, right, is healthy protein from healthy animals. We don't really have time to go into all that. But fats, you can imagine, olive oil, avocados, nuts and seeds, and coconut oil and things like that. And carbohydrates are really vegetables and berries. You can do berries because they're high fiber, low carbohydrate. Carbohydrates can kind of take us out if we eat too many. And a lot of us, as we get perimenopausal and postmenopausal, can't tolerate them as well. So check your hemoglobin A1C on your blood work and your insulin, fasting insulin, and that'll tell you how you're doing. And so you take those that hormonally balanced meal, proteins, fats, and carbs, and you eat it within an hour of waking. And then you eat it every 4 to 6 hours after that. And you don't skip any meals. You don't do intermittent fasting. You don't do keto. It kind of is keto, actually, if you stick to what I just said. But you always can have a little bit starchy vegetable. You don't want to go too low in carbohydrates, or you cause a cortisol spike because your body's freaking out. So make sure that you're getting enough. And if you're, a busy exerciser, you need more. You need more, not less. We're under eating and we're over exercising, and you're just taking your hormones out. So then you stop eating by 7, because after 7 p.m. we get a lot more insulin resistant. And you'll find if you stop eating by 6, you can fall asleep easier, you can stay asleep, and you feel good in the morning so that you're ready for breakfast. Because I never ate breakfast.
Same.
So there's some tips there.
I love that, because I think we have had it ingrained in us that, there's been a lot of chatter about skipping breakfast on my podcast. Like, I used to do it. It really was hard for me to switch that mindset. For me, it was like, if I can just push off eating as long as possible, that's like less calories throughout the day. That'll help me lose weight. But I feel so much better now that I have breakfast. And I love that I'm hungry in the morning. But if you eat too late, like, I can see how that's a cycle too, because you're eating too late. So you're not hungry in the morning. So, and then your sleep is affected too. So I think that's great. And then for somebody, you make it sound very simple with the food, which is great, because it's very easy to get this. This is such a complicated thing for so many people. It gets so confusing. Do you recommend that people look into a type of healthy diet, or just go by what you said and just don't worry about?
Go by what I said. Don't
Yeah.
listen to any diet, because you don't want to ever diet again.
Right.
And I just switched, you can kind of stick to the 6 ways to make food that are really healthy, which are shakes. I do a shake almost every morning, because I put bone broth in my shake this morning. Talk about
put anything in there.
amazing nutrients, right? And a cup of berries, and I put a carrot and some celery and a handful of pecans. And, you just make this it's delicious, and it's really nourishing, right? So shakes, scrambles, stews, sautés. There are a couple of, I don't know if I think I said soup already. There are 2 more, and stews, soups, sautés, scrambles, shakes. Then there's one more.
What do you think about dairy for us women?
Yeah, dairy's not great because for a bunch of reasons. We end up eating it a lot for protein, and it's not a great protein source. It's mostly a carbohydrate, unless you're eating cottage cheese, for instance. And it raises something called insulin growth factor. So it's potentially going to raise insulin. And a lot of us have what's called an IgG response to it. I just recently did another food intolerance test on myself, because I'm really trying to fine tune some things. And, for instance, I'm, highly reactive to the casein, but not the whey, for instance.
Okay.
And so most of us are highly reactive to some part of the dairy, which means that our immune system is always on overdrive, which means that our cortisol is going to be elevated. So dairy is, have it as a treat, rather than an everyday. And, goat seems to be better tolerated, sheep. Now there's a farm called Alexander that's making like A2, A2.
Mm-hmm.
So there's A1 versus A2 dairy, and A2 is supposed to be a lot easier for us to tolerate, but it's still dairy. It's still going to raise, IGF-1. So, you just have to see. People definitely, women do better without dairy. And, if you go to a party, that's all there is. There's, cheese and crackers and wine. And, there's a whole wheat thing. And, I'm definitely against wheat. So yeah, so that's a thing. And, when I stopped eating wheat, the arthritic symptoms in my hands completely went away. That's pretty amazing. And that's kind of the start, oftentimes, of autoimmune conditions is wheat.
Yeah, we have an allergy to wheat in my house, my one of my sons, and so I've been away from gluten for years, like 10, 12 years maybe. Oh gosh, more than that. But I heard also if you have thyroid issues, like not great to have gluten. And I do eat gluten sometimes, and now I had a doctor tell me that I need to step away from the wheat, and so I'm on a more anti-inflammatory diet right now,
Mm. Oh,
which
good.
is basically what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, if we just stick to the whole real food, we're going to be
Yeah.
good to go. Baked goods are definitely a treat. I never eat wheat because
Okay.
even if you eat it once in a while, it still can open up those tight junctions in your digestive tract, and then you're in trouble. And it's really thyroid issues related to autoimmune thyroid, right? That the wheat, because that's where wheat has a big impact, for sure. So yeah, and there was something I wanted to mention about the eating, but I'll think of it. Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that you have to take, if you're dealing with all of these things, you really have to take a look at your food. I mean, it was one of the first things that you mentioned, and I'm not going to lie, like it sucks. Like, I'm sorry. It sucks that it's like this and that the food quality that we're used to having is just garbage a lot of times, and it's frustrating, but it is unfortunately or fortunately, like, and that's, kind of where I'm at with what I'm doing right now with my diet is, yeah, it's restrictive. It can be, but it's also what's more important to me right now. I'm really trying to work on healing myself, like in every way too. Like I've come a long way, but I have a way to go. And so I'm okay with this for my food. And actually it's delicious. Like
It is delicious.
it's
It's
great. I don't feel
way
deprived.
more, yeah, it's way more delicious once you settle into it. We kind of go kicking and screaming. What do
Yes.
you mean I can't have this? We become the drama queens. And really, it's completely empty food. It's
Yeah.
empty of nutrients. And not only that, it robs your body of nutrients. So, just one key, which I'm sure you're doing already, but for your listeners, just make delicious sauces and dressings, with like, miso and, beautiful herbs and spices that all have huge benefits for your hormones in your brain, and coconut aminos, and Bragg's, and nutritional yeast, and garlic and onion, and all those aromatics, and all the things that make food taste yummy that you don't get in prepackaged foods or baked goods. And now, it was so funny. I took a trip to France with a girlfriend last fall, and she really wanted to have a croissant made with butter, right? Who doesn't in France? But it was my mission to find a gluten-free one. Of course, it's not as light and fluffy as the real one, but oh my gosh, we found this bakery that had all gluten free, and they made beautiful quiches and croissants and eclairs, all these really pretty things. And you just have little tastes. Gluten free isn't better, right? Gluten free baked goods, it's just maybe less allergenic, but it's still a lot of carb. So, you want to, carb just raises blood sugar, raises insulin, and therefore affects your cortisol. So, little tastes of things, right? And so now they become these little delicacies instead of every day, you're bombarding your body with a lot of stuff that just doesn't work for it.
So then sometimes I feel like that's all you need. It's like just that taste is
Okay.
plenty. As long as it scratches
Yeah.
the itch and then you can
Yeah.
move on. So
Yes.
I love all of this. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before you tell us where we can find you and learn more
Yeah,
about what you do?
just say yes to yourself. You being here today is a yes. You listening to this information, and once you hear something, you can't unhear it. So showing up is really important, and you've showed up to listen to this, which is epic, and you're going to just start making these little small changes which over time equal huge results, believe me, because that's what it was for me when I wasn't, I had none of this on my radar. When I was first learning about all this, it was just like, how do I fix this, how do I fix this? And everything healed. It took time, right? Give yourself the grace of time, I would say, because it takes at least a year for our cells to turn over from unhealthy cells to newer, healthier cells. So we can't do the quick fix anymore. So
Yeah.
choose you and give yourself time.
I love that. Oh, that's so good. So tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, so naturalhormonesolution.com, naturalhormonesolution.com. And I think we have a Facebook group. I know we have a Facebook group. It's Natural Solutions for Hormone Balance. It's a private group, and you just need to ask to join, but we'd love to have you.
I know. I love everything you shared. It is so amazing what you have been able to do for yourself and all your clients. So thank you for sharing with us today. It was so wonderful. I loved it.
Thank you, Jess. I love your energy and I love your podcast. And thank you for everything you're doing for us in the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.